Welcome to Sid's rookie season,
Well, the summer before.
a heated rivalry fan companion podcast where your hosts, Amanda, Lau, and Lauren, break down the episodes from Crave Canada's television series, the Game Changers novels, and various media surrounding this fan phenomenon.
Today, we're going to delve into episode 1, Rookies, so stay tuned for more Shane and Ilya first encounters, how on screen intimacy sets the plot and the characters' vibes, and even a real hockey segment.
Okay, so first up, it's our first episode. We should probably introduce ourselves a bit. We have our descriptions all over and in the description of the podcast. But yeah, first, who are we and how we were introduced to this show, how we met, and how our episodes are going to go. So I can start. My name's Amanda. I use they, them pronouns. I was introduced to the show by the timeline and by a lot of my other fandom friends that I share fandoms with. Were talking about this and it looked really good. And I was like, queer media? Hell yeah. So I already have HBO Max, so I started streaming it from the second episode, and immediately I was like, oh, this is important. This is going to be really good. This is going to be a hit. It's shot really well, like just the yearning of it all. And so I picked up the books. I've been making my way through the novels. I just finished Common Goal last night as of recording this, so I'll be finishing up the whole series soon. And yeah, and then I will let my other two co-hosts explain how we met, because I have met both of these friends separately and they both know me separately, so I'll let them talk about how we met.
Okay, so I can go next. I'm Lau. I'm joining y'all from Bogota, Colombia. And I know Amanda from the Percy Jackson fandom. We're on the same Patreon Discord server for our friends at Seawood Brain podcast. And we have been together at a book club a couple of times. So that's how we met. And I know Lauren through Amanda. I got introduced to Heated Rivalry through the timeline as well. I follow queer shows and queer media. So that was on my list. And then we have a friend, and then I have a friend who was very insistent that we watch it together, that we talk about it. So shout out to Kaylee, who I know is listening.
Yeah, Kaylee started the idea when we made a channel. We were like, oh, should someone make a podcast about this? Maybe we should. Kaylee made a new channel in our separate Heated Rivalry server and named it Welcome to the Pottage,
We're
or
going
Going
to
to
the
the
Pottage.
Pottage or something.
Yeah.
And now in my head, yeah, Going to the Pottage. And so when I was like writing down like different like podcast ideas, I kept labeling stuff like Pottage or like whatever. So in my head, I've been calling this the Pottage.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I use they, them pronouns. I met Amanda while I was working on my PhD at the University of Central Florida. I am kind of coming to this as not only a huge fan of romance novels, but also as an academic and a person who studies media studies and also does a heavy, heavy look at how fans interact with fan objects and the things that they love. So I've always wanted to do a podcast, especially on something that has like a really involved and really well-loved fandom. And so Amanda kind of like reached out to me over winter break and was like, hey, do you want to do a podcast on Heated Rivalry? And I was like, no, like literally and exactly, like, shut up. I will do this. No problem. So Amanda and I have met in IRL, and they are one of my best friends. We have matching little
Oh yes.
ginkgo biloba tattoos, which are very cute. So yes, many a year I've known Amanda. How I got into Heated Rivalry is kind of a very long, convoluted story, but I've always been involved in fandom, and actually in like 2021 I found this fic on Archive of Our Own under the it's a Sirius Black Remus Lupin from Harry Potter. It's a hockey AU. It's very popular in the fandom. And I like fell in love with hockey. I mean, I grew up, the Chicago Blackhawks were like the closest hockey team to me. So I watched them kind of growing up, but I wasn't like super involved in hockey. But that fic like launched me into the stratosphere of everything hockey. And I started reading like everything hockey romance that I could get my little like grubby hands on. At the same time, I had friends who were dating players of the local ECHL team in Florida.
Okay.
So I like went to a karaoke bar with them once, which was insane, and came back to Chicago, ended up getting even further into hockey, and probably read Heated Rivalry for the first time in like 2024, I think. And actually was not on my
Wow.
radar until I saw something on a timeline like over the summer, and it was like stills from the episodes. And it was like, first look at Heated Rivalry, the gay hockey show. And then it like kind of fell off again. I didn't really think about it because I'm probably going to get hate for this, but Heated Rivalry is not one of my favorite hockey romances. And so I didn't really care kind of what happened. And then I watched the show and then I was like, oh no, I fear I am obsessed. So that is kind of the very long, convoluted story of how I got here.
I guess I'll throw out there as well, since I will say that y'all, my very close friends here, are much more qualified than me. I'll say like they're like.
Don't say that.
Well, no, I think y'all like have your PhDs and stuff, and I'm coming this from a different angle, and y'all have like done such serious analysis of different medias and different things, and I've just read a bit of like feminist theory, and I have a sociology degree, which isn't to discount me, but I feel like y'all really thrive in this kind of environment and level of analysis. And so I'm really excited to see what y'all have to say, and to get into it and see what y'all pick up on that maybe I don't, or like whatever dumb shit comes out of my mouth that you can help frame in a more like literary kind of sense, if that connects.
Yeah, no, I mean, Amanda is going to be like, we're calling you like our mediator. Like, you're going to be the person that's like, hey, I actually don't understand what theory you guys are talking about. Can you please dumb it down for me and all of the people listening? So,
Right.
And I think that's so important. I think that sometimes academics, we enter, and I know Lauren agrees, we enter this code where we're saying a lot of words.
yes, that don't make sense to
And
people outside of academia.
yeah, yeah. And also that can blindside us to a
Yes.
lot of things that we're dissecting everything so much that sometimes we're gonna miss things that you, Amanda, are gonna be more aware of. So that's why I love this combination that we have here. Like, we can bring a lot to the table, each one of us, PhD or not.
Yeah, exactly. No, I always say like people with PhDs are really smart about a really small subset of things. And then we're really dumb about like everything else. Yeah, like, so I'm very excited. And one thing that I've always like tried to do is make my academics like accessible to people in any way, shape,
Mm-hmm.
and form that I can do
Same.
that. So I'm really excited about this like opportunity.
And now that you mention accessibility, we just wanted to tell everyone that we will try our best to meet our access needs. So if there's anything we're forgetting, you can feel free to let us know through our socials or email address that is going to be on the description of this episode.
Yes, for sure. No, accessibility is so important to us. Please hold us to that. Anything we say or do, please hold us to.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So maybe we should get into like an outline of our episode of
Yeah.
like kind of how we'll go about these. I know Lauren has a disclaimer that we're gonna go over, but we're gonna do obviously have like a whole body discussion of the episode. It's of the Heated Rivalry show itself. Lauren's gonna have a section to talk about actual hockey stuff. We do have like a thesis question that we're following. We have some different things that we'll be tracking, like how many times Ilya calls Shane boring, and how many foot touches, and the timeline, and the technology. We have so many things that we're excited to talk about. But Lauren, do you want to start with our disclaimer and our like thesis question?
Yeah. So I guess we'll start with kind of like our overarching idea of this podcast. So obviously, like Amanda just said, we're going to be doing episode breakdowns. We're going to do book breakdowns, and we're going to look at the media kind of surrounding all of this. But the important thing to note is that this is not going to be your like run of the mill reaction podcast. We're all kind of trained to do some kind of analysis form, and so that's basically what this podcast is going to be looking at. Is it's going to be a form of analysis of kind of this entire genre, etc. We're also going to be critiquing the thing, and I know we all want to be like, oh my gosh, please don't mess with my like my love, my fandom object, don't say anything mean or bad about it. But we all recognize that like criticism is very important. It helps us become better like intellectuals. It helps us become better people. And especially in eras of fascism like we are seeing right now, criticism of media, of the things that we are consuming daily, even hourly or to the minute, is really important. And it's a skill that we all should like strive for. We all should learn how to do, and like learn how to dissect the media that we are consuming, that we are engaging with, and learn how to talk about them with other people. So we will be talking about things like racism, sexism, homophobia, ableism, all of those isms that are kind of like the bad parts of the world, the things that we usually stray away from. We'll be getting political. This is not a bad thing. It is just a way for us to analyze the things that we love. And we'll also still be very feral on the mics talking about various scenes. I don't know if you've seen my notes, but I think I have butts written down like 300 times. So
Please.
it's a little combination of both.
Butts are important. Butts
Exactly.
are
But we also got to talk
important.
about which butts are being represented on this TV show and which butts aren't.
So,
I gotta
Exactly.
say that part,
uh-huh,
guys.
uh-huh,
So that is our little disclaimer. We are not trying to make you hate this show.
uh-huh,
All of that
uh-huh.
disclaimer aside, we are kind of using like a guiding question to like make us think about this first season of Heated Rivalry, this first season of our pod. And it's this idea of like, what makes this so addictive? Like, what is in this story and the way that it was given to us that allows us to be this obsessed with this, like doing this many reheats, this many rewatches of it, just flooding the timeline with this much serotonin? Like, what is making it so addictive? And so we hope to kind of like touch on that in all of our episodes as we work through this season.
So I have a question for you, Amanda and Lauren, but also for our listeners. Please leave us comments on our socials and answer this. Previous to this podcast, because I know we rewatched the first episode to take notes, right? But how many times did you watch episode one before we started working on this?
I think for me, at least 2 to 3. The second one was definitely after HBO corrected their light issue, which they fixed after a few episodes. But yes, I had watched the first few episodes with the light issue, and then I went back to watch it again. And then I was introducing my friends to it, and I was like, "No, you have to watch this so I can talk about it." And so then that was my third rewatch, was binging it with them.
I think I'm on like my 7th or 8th rewatch of the whole
Okay, yeah.
series.
Dude! Okay, fine.
I
Listen,
cannot.
I've
Listen,
been moving. I
yeah,
have other
Yes,
life stuff going
Amanda's
on.
like
Otherwise, I
starting a whole
would.
new job,
yeah,
like halfway
we get
across the
it.
board
We
that
get
used
it,
to
Amanda.
Yeah,
live. Yeah, we get it.
that's my
I
excuse.
literally, I was talking about this on Threads the other day. I didn't plan my syllabus over winter break because I was too obsessed with watching Heated Rivalry. Like, I'm scrambling because it's my first week of class. Like, I'm scrambling to get stuff out
Listen,
because I didn't do it
listen.
over the break.
It was our break. We work our ass out for these classes we teach, Lauren. We deserved a break focused on heated rivalry.
No, and like crazy because like all I did over this break was focus on Heated Rivalry. The other thing is I'm working on an article that's like looking at Black fan responses to Love Island from this
Wow.
summer. on Threads. So I felt like all I did was be on Threads for like 8 hours, to a point that I was like, okay, my New Year's resolution is to not be on Threads as much anymore. Like I have a limit because I was on it too much over
Whoops.
break. Whoops.
And we put it in charge. We put Lauren in charge of our friends. So,
I've actually been really good. I've been really good, okay? I have my limit on
I am proud
there.
of you.
Yeah.
I am proud of
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. It's been difficult.
Wait, Lau, how many?
So I don't know. You know that I'm not good with numbers. More than 4 times, I guess. I also could have been working on my zombie seminar that I will start teaching very soon. I was in heated rivalry and Percy Jackson mode. No much time for, planning classes, being an adult.
Real.
Yeah. But I'm a serial rewatcher. I think
Yeah, that's so fair.
the Weekend Heartstopper came in on Netflix. I watched it 5 times in 3 days.
No, okay. So like I feel like I'm also a serial rewatcher on like so much stuff. Like my favorite hockey romance book, it's called The Rest of the Story by Tal Bauer. I've reread that book like 300 times. It gives me like such a boost of serotonin every time I read it. It is like those books like make me cry. Like I am into like a book, and I know we'll talk about this, I'm sure, at some point about my thoughts on like book talk books and like how heated rivalry even fits into that, because I have thoughts, obviously. But that book I've reread like probably like 20 times at least. And so I'm like a serial rewatcher. Like I rewatch Avatar The Last Airbender, I rewatch Lord of the Rings like once a month, the whole extended editions, because I love Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. Anyways,
Wow. Nice.
let's
Nice.
get into. Okay, so our main segment is going to be breaking down the episode. We have like main highlights of time of like specific scenes and things that we want to point out. So yeah, let's get into it. And we're gonna start with December 2008, the International Prospect Cup. This is also actually known as the World Juniors, and the World Juniors just ended. Sweden won gold for the first time in a while, which was like crazy, because the USA got knocked out. They got fourth place. No, they got fifth place, I think. And Canada only got up to third, which is like kind of crazy because one of the kids on Canada, his name's Gavin McKenna. He is like a generational talent, and he's having like a really good year. And the fact that they didn't get a gold is insane. So December 2008, International Prospect Cup, Regina, Saskatchewan. Let's talk about it.
When we see these big timeline things, we want to talk about either big moments in history, big moments in queer history, and like where we were personally in our lives at this time to kind of see where the parallels and how this falls out. Because Shane and Ilya's love story, or like this whole story, is told over the course of many, many years. And so I think it'd be really fun if we were like, okay, where were we in our lives and what were they seeing? Like, were they seeing like Britney on stage before they like all of this? Like, they went through both the Obama administrations. You know what I mean?
One Direction became a band and disbanded in the timeline. The 1D updates blog that I used to run is quaking in her boots, literally right now.
Exactly. Period.
Okay, so I love Amanda that you're asking where were we, because we are part of queer history.
All of us are part of queer history.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2008 economic crisis. Me as the youngster in this trio, I was in first grade experiencing the economic crisis with my parents working in the real estate agency. So that was fun. Big economic crisis. I don't know what like further beyond being in first grade and watching the election happen and this crisis economic stuff. So
I was 13. I was in middle school, probably being awkward as fuck. Definitely not queer at that point in my life. I definitely probably had glasses, braces, and bangs, which was like the triple threat combo. I met my best friend during this kind of era, and she's still my best friend to this day, the love of my life. Lau, what about you?
I also had, you call it bangs. I've always called them a fringe, because I have family in the UK. I have family in the UK, so that's why. So I had a fringe, but the fringe was red.
Ooh.
Like red head on a red, because I was a Potterhead,
Ooh.
and I was obsessed with obsessed with Ginny Weasley.
Right.
Like, you know, do I want to be her or do I want to be with her? I was too young. I was too young.
The question.
The question. I was too young to even ask that question. I was 14. So that was not on my radar, queerness at all. And I think it was the calm before the storm of being a teenager. Like everything was very calm. Everything was working out. I knew who I was. I was reading one book after the other. I did not hate school as much as I will later on. And as I just said, I was not questioning anything, I was just there. And my brother just sent me a reminder of the video we recorded that New Year's Eve. And he always jokes, he's like, today's the anniversary to the dumbest video my sister made, because I end the video saying like, I hope you have the best 29, like 2009 year of your lives. So I was just playing around, so you know, he's gonna laugh at that. So yeah, it was a nice moment before things were not nice in the world, you know, like
Listen, like everybody was like, "Oh, America elected a black president. Racism is over." We're like, "Oh my god!" It kind of felt like summer 2016. When like nothing could go wrong, but then everything did.
yeah, yeah.
I was fully immersed in my scene phase. I will say, like, I was very much like emo kid, like 2008, listening to My Chemical Romance, like straightening my bangs, putting eyeliner like on my waterline. The photos are wild. And you know what? Emo kids did not get enough representation in this show, I think, for that era. I would just
I
like to
agree.
throw that
I
out
agree.
there.
I went through Dan and Phil's rabbit hole last November and December
Queer
for the first
icons.
time in my life, and I was like, yeah, we're talking about queer history. Wait, queer history. December
So
2008 is
you're
the
saying
last
Kolanov.
December before Dan and Phil know each other. So
Kolanov came before Dan and Phil.
Oh my god, there was something in the water. Okay. Holland is older than Dan and Phil. Yes, no, I love this. I love this. Okay, so we open on our boy Ilya Rozanov. He's trying to light his cigarette. Okay, first of all, I love this that it like doesn't catch until he makes eye contact with Shane, like the lighter. Like it is like the spark. Like, shut up, Jacob Tierney, the man that you are.
And I love that we see Ilya first because we are seeing everything through Shane's eyes. So we enter with Shane, we see Ilya, and then when Ilya turns and
Yeah.
sees Shane and makes eye contact, that is when we see both of them. So I thought it was a very clever way to build the POV. We start with Ilya not because Ilya is more important, but because we're walking in Shane's shoes. And we're playing with this idea that we're going to be jumping from
Right.
POV to POV, and we are going to be with both of them. It's not like our protagonist, Shane, and his love story with Ilya. They're both our protagonists, and I think
for sure,
like the cinematography here communicates that very well, and the body language. Shane mimicking the smoke because he's not sure Ilya understands, and we have the no smoking sign just out of focus, but Ilya looks at it like, I know it's there, like I don't really care.
Yes, exactly. Like, babes, come on. This is like also such a great moment because I feel like before we even know who they are, there is like a juxtaposition between the two of them. From Ilya being blonde haired, and oh my god, we don't talk about Beanie Ilya enough. Jesus Christ, Beanie Ilya. Okay, but like he's blonde, blue eyed. Shane is dark hair, dark eyed. You even see like class distinctions. Like Shane looks like he's more like buttoned up a little bit. He's wearing like nicer items. Like he's in a big puffer and a sweatshirt, where Ilya looks like he's more lower class. He's got like a workman's jacket on. He's not really like
Mm-hmm.
super dressed for the weather. Like there is this like immediate distinction between the two of them before we even know that they're rivals, before we even know who they are. And so I love how that like scene is like immediately set up.
Yeah, we also get our first intro to Ilya's known asshole facade. Like he's just so known to be such a jerk. And this is like the first thing of that, where it's like, yeah, there's a no smoking sign right there. I'm gonna smoke right here. And also when like Shane says you're an awesome player to watch, and he goes, okay. Like he's just such an asshole. And so this is our first thing. And he starts off that way with Shane, and then as we go through this, and I'll mention it again, where he like lessens some of the, he's still an asshole, but like less so to Shane than others. And then also Shane is just like awkwardly hanging around, but like he immediately rebukes the trash talk, and I love that. Like Baby Bird learns how to chirp throughout this, but he immediately knows when someone's trash talking him and will throw it back.
Yes, and also for all you non-hockey people, chirping is what hockey players call throwing insults at one another, like you're chirping another player. So I'm sure everybody's learned that, but just in case you're not aware.
No, the only thing I wanted to say is just for stuff we want to track, for stuff we will be talking about, disclaimer, we will explain why Ilya is not toxic. So even though we are saying that he has this asshole facade, I also, as the international in this group, want to point out at cultural differences and how they're gonna affect these interactions between our characters. And there's a lot here happening with Ilya. First, how comfortable is he talking in English, having this conversation in English? Second of all, how
Right.
used is he to
Yes.
rival team members coming to him in such a friendly way? And we're gonna see throughout the episode where, like, what is his environment at home. So we're gonna understand a bit more how, like, that. Okay, he has a facade. He has a wall up. He's protecting himself, but we know that there's a lot there to unpack. Lauren was pointing out at the social class thing, but also this cultural thing and being the foreigner, being approached in a language that you don't feel that comfortable in. And
Yeah.
sometimes we can seem like assholes because we don't feel like connecting to the language. We're tired, we're overwhelmed.
Like see how his coach treats him in the next scene. So like clearly he's stressed out. He's got a lot of pressure on him from home because his dad is like the traditional Russian hockey parent where he's like you have to win everything and show everybody how good Russia
Mm-hmm.
is at this and how show everyone how better Russia is at hockey. And so like he's probably I mean like the smoking we can see is like a stress reliever for him like throughout the series, and so like him smoking outside and then like being approached by this kid who's like I just want to have a friend, and then being like wait hold on, I'm not comfortable with this language, I've had a stressful day, like I really don't want to do this right now. And so like while I can like support Shane Hollander's like little like nice Canadian boy thing, it is very like it is very not what Ilya wants at this moment. But also, Ilya does check him out like 4 or 5 times in this scene. So
We see the eyes.
the eyes
Yeah.
tell Ilya's story. Just watch the eyes.
Connor does a great job with eyes. He is Both of them are great with face expression and eye acting.
And I think this adds to our idea of why is this so addicting. And I think that Connor Story and Hudson Williams are such phenomenal actors, and we will continue to say this throughout. But like the way, especially if you've seen any of their interviews or how they talk about the production of the show, they become so comfortable with each other, and they give everything to this production and to their roles. Like Connor constantly being praised for his accent work, and he's like, I think he said in some interview where he was like, yeah, I just am not embarrassed about it, and I just absolutely give it everything, even if it does come out bad. And his commitment to that really shines through, like to the point where people think he's actually Russian, even though he's not. He's from like Texas or something. So I think that idea of the fact that we can pick up on this through them, of like they're eyeing each other so much, and we pick up so many of those micro expressions, gives to the idea of why is it so addicting, is because they're fucking good at it. They're so good at acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're such good actors. But all right, moving into the next scene. So the next scene is like starting with a voiceover. You're learning about who they are as hockey players. They talk about Shane. They're like, oh, he isn't sociable, but he has like the highest hockey IQ. And so basically in hockey, what that means is that you're not only good at like doing all of the things that hockey requires you to do, like passing, shooting, skating, but you also can like see the game happening and you can make like split second decisions on how you are going to change the play. Hockey is talked about as a game that's played in inches. So like even though the rink is massive, it is like oftentimes down to like split seconds, down to milliseconds, down to inches for players to make decisions about things. So players with really good high hockey IQs currently in the league are people like Connor McDavid, Connor Bedard, Macklin Celebrini. These are all people who are like amazing playmakers. They can like see what's happening on the rink before it even happens, basically. They're like basically telling the future of the game before they make a decision. So also, I think this is also where they kind of again juxtapose Shane because he's like, you know, he's smart, he's dedicated, he's fast, he's got a good shot. He's like all of the things you would want a hockey player to be, but he's not sociable. And then you see the opposite when they're talking about Ilya and they're like, oh, he's strong on puck, he's a strong skater, he gets under people's skin, but he's good in the room. And I think this will also play into like how we talk about Ilya as a captain, especially in like episode 2 with the Olympians. So it's literally like if you put them together, like Shane and Ilya, they would be like the perfect hockey player. But they are distinctly separate and they distinctly have
Right.
their own things that make them very good and they don't intersect. So this is why them playing together would be amazing.
That's great. Thank you for explaining that because it does add a lot. And if you don't know about hockey, you might miss some of that. We also get like I think it's so important that we have the juxtaposition between the previous scene and this scene because we got to meet them very intimately before knowing them as the public knows them. So the show is telling us we are not gonna be seeing them through the POV of the public. We're gonna be seeing them in private and then contrasting them to their public image. So we have the cameras showing the names on the backs of their uniforms. We get nationalities. We didn't before that, and we get all these hockey analysis on who they are as players. But we, as spectators, we know other things. We know Shane admires Ilya. We know Ilya is a rule breaker. We know also that there's a vibe between them. We are maybe not sure exactly what kind of vibe, but we know this is a romance. So if anyone was like surprised by the fact that they fuck in a few scenes, um, okay,
No, they're and
you're
this is I
valid.
think important to set up. Yeah, they're not enemies. They're not
No,
enemies. Like
mm-mm.
that first scene, like they're like they don't hate each other. Like and like this rivalry is mostly media. Like this
Mm-hmm.
happens every year with NHL players. Like there are rivals, like totally. But like this is not an enemies to lovers story. This is a rivals to lovers story. They don't hate each other.
There is no, they don't want to kill each other. They don't want to kill each other's families. I know hockey is very important to Shane,
Right.
but it's not life and death in that sense that some enemies to lovers get. We have like the conflict will be how their private life contrasts with people's images of them, like what the public has projected on them, how the capitalistic machine of the league has been drinking from this golden fountain of the rivalry between Shane and Ilya. And I think this is very important to point out that they never hated each other. They might be annoyed by each other sometimes. They're gonna be like rivals on the ice, but everything else about this rivalry was built as a PR thing that
Yes.
brings people to the games, gets people into buying things because they will choose a side, and choosing a side will make them more dedicated fans to them.
Exactly.
So this is not like a story about two people that hated each other and then fell in love. That's not what we have here.
Yeah, they just have like a supposed rivalry that has been set up for them in this way, and they play into it because that's like what they're meant to do. But of course, they have something else going on the side. And I do think that in this scene specifically, it's a very interesting framing narrative for like that is used throughout the show. As a way to illustrate like what you're saying of like how the public sees them and in different ways to it's a different perspective of like, oh, how is the public seeing them, because we as the audience get that personal first person almost basically point of view from each of them. And then but then you have to zoom out to the other side of like, okay, but what is the public facing of this and how are they acting in public? And I also want to say that if we are looking at framing narratives in a meta perspective of like the protagonist and antagonist, we need to look at who is the antagonist in this story.
Is the NHL.
And I saw, I don't know if it was a tweet or a TikTok or like someone sent me a reel or something, but I was the antagonist of this story isn't the other one. It isn't their parents or whatever. The antagonist is the league, either the NHL or the MHL or whatever they want to call it in the show or the book is the league that they're playing for, because it won't let them be who they are, and they have to. I don't. I'm not going to give spoilers for the rest of the series, but like these are there are obviously obstacles of why they couldn't express these feelings that they have and why it becomes a whole hidden thing. And I think that keeping in mind that idea of like who's the protagonist antagonist and why does this drive part of their motivations and why they act the way they do, I think is very important to keep in mind.
And also to add on to that, the antagonist is Russia. Like, is the other thing. Because, like, that is like, I mean, we get into this like later on in this episode, even, and like further on in the series, but like Vladimir Putin's like anti-gay laws and like the way that Russia treats gay people is like a major antagonist in this story. And like to like not acknowledge that and to not acknowledge like the things that like gay people in Russia have been through, or people who are allies of gay people in Russia have been through, I think is like really disingenuous. So it's not only both the NHL, which is a super racist, sexist, homophobic, rapist like centered organization, but also this country that is just like literally destroying like everything about this young man's life.
Yeah. And I have more thoughts on this, but I think we'll get there when we get to the towards the end of the episode when they're a couple years later in I think Vegas. For now, I also wanted to say in this scene we're in the scene where they're still like eyeing each other and setting up the idea of them as rivals. We get the first look at the hashtag momager. I do love Una Hollander. I think she's so funny and so great.
Kris Jenner works hard, but Una Hollander works harder. The devil
Una
works
Hollander
hard,
works
but
harder.
Una Hollander
Yes.
works harder.
Yes, and I want to shout her out every time we see her because I adore her. So this is our first look at the momager, but also like the way she's sitting, also the way that Shane obviously has her support, but where is Ilya's support? The only thing he gets in this, the only like acknowledgement he gets is a call out from his coach. And so he's sitting there like man spreading, chewing on the aglet of his hoodie in the seats and staring at Shane. So I think that was a really cool showing, not telling, but like showing us how that side of their life as well.
Yes. Yes.
No, and I wanted to say, like, just very briefly, Ilya's support is negative. Like, Ilya doesn't have support. Like, his coach, like, the way that his coach talks to him is negative. The way that he talks to the other Russian players is negative. Like, I think he says something about, like, sucking a dick or something to another Russian player. I gotta go find the exact translation, but that is all negative. So he has nothing. He has no one. It makes me want to cry.
It's negative. And it's not that he has nothing. He has a lot of negative, as you were saying. Like, it's not only the absence of support, it's the presence of harassment.
Correct.
Which makes it more complex. And two things. First, we were talking about how Shane is portrayed as not very sociable, but the contrast between that and Shane approaching Ilya, who is a stranger to him, you know?
Exactly.
So is he not sociable, or is just, and for anyone who is for some reason not aware, Shane has been confirmed as being on the spectrum, being autistic. So we're gonna also see how we portray neurodivergence in media, like how people assume that there's only one way to be sociable. And this is something we're gonna track as well in this podcast, is how Shane is actually a good friend, someone that is reaching out constantly to the people he loves, someone who communicates, even just not very party guy sociable, which I feel represented as a neurospicy person in that. So
Yeah, and I think we're gonna do a special episode after we cover this first season. We'll do a special episode on neurodivergence and how that relates to Shane and perhaps some of the other characters in the show. I'm really excited for that, and so we'll highlight things here that we'll further explore in that episode as well.
yes.
We have a couple things we're tracking here. First, the thing we're tracking is the see you at the draft. So we get this idea of they keep saying the next time that they'll see each other. So it's like, oh, see you at the draft. So this is our first iteration of that. And then this, I want to, just for not petty purposes, but just, I don't remember where, it might have been in an interview or something, but they were saying, so I think Jacob Tierney was saying that it's not the hockey so much as matters, but it's like the hockey that we're getting is which side of the couple is wins or loses and how are they portrayed. And so I want to follow that. And so Rosanov's at 1 here and Hollander's at 0. Now back with the timeline, 6 months later, Lau was saying that this timeline was wild to you the first time you watched it. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, for me it was like, oh, we're already jumping, and I think 2 scenes later we're jumping 6 months again. So I was like, oh, this is going so quick. So I was getting used to it this first episode, and I think they do a great job with pointing it out. Like, I don't think there's a way to do this time jumps so frequently that is better than the one they chose. Like, for me, it would be so hard to track, and it might be because I can count, but I think that the big 6 months later adds a lot to the experience of this timeline that is so convoluted and so fast at first.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool way to frame them. Like, and it is very outright, but I think that's important to show like how often they are or aren't talking to each other. It's to say that they're maybe not seeing each. This is the next time they see each other, and they're not talking much in between. And I think it's a really cool narrative to set up for in a love story of the time and distance that grows between them and what can happen to them in those in betweens. And so it's really cool to see them to like skip time and be like, oh, how do they look now? They look a little older. They're coming into their own. They're like what 18, 19 when we first meet them, and then now they're getting into their early 20s. That continues in how they change. So now that puts us at June 2009 or about there. We're in LA for the MLH draft. And so this is really important. This sets up what teams they're going to be on and how that's going to work. And there are some really interesting, just little things that you pick up on in these short conversations. The first time I watched it, I had to turn back the time because I was like, whoa, there was so much that just happened here between the comparing between them and like the little microaggressions and the little things. So I'm really excited to talk about this.
Yeah, so just a little info on the draft before we get into it. So
yes, please.
as the hockey guru, I will get into it. Okay, so leading up to the draft, players play in a ton of different leagues, do a lot of different things. Typically, they have to be above 18 before September 15th and under 21 for that year. So you can get drafted between 18 and 21. Most of the time, these are people who have either played on junior leagues, like the Ontario Hockey League or the Western Hockey League, or there's a Quebec one that I'm not going to butcher the name of, or they've played in like junior leagues in the United States or even in Europe across the world. And so typically what happens when you are being drafted is the team with the worst record gets to draft first. So that year or the year before, the Boston Raiders were the worst team in their division. And so were the Montreal Metros. They were like the 2 worst teams. And they always get the first draft pick the next year because like when you're in contention for playoffs, you don't really want to like mess up your team by bringing in like a whole new player or a bunch of new players. And so that's why you draft later. And so, yeah, so basically they are like fresh little 18-year-old babies. They are being drafted by these teams. And now it's a little different than it was in 2008. Now there's like a lottery-based system that the National Hockey League uses for their drafting process, but it was a little bit different in 2008. Or 2009, sorry. But the draft always happens in the end of June, and it is after the playoffs finish for the year. That's my hockey lesson for you today.
That's so interesting. You just added so much to the background of these two teams that we're gonna get to meet.
We see that obviously completely flip the dynamic of the teams with what we see with how these two play on each team. So, Lau, do you want to tell us about the three teams that we see here with the? Which also I want to say there's a because then we see the Shane, Ilya, and a third random dude.
Yeah.
And I want to say I've seen so many memes about whatever third guy is put in of like they're like rookie nominations for rookie of the year that comes later, and then like but in this instance it's like oh number three so excited he's like holding up three fingers and but Shane and Ilya to the side, and I've seen so many memes it's like the POV of that guy. He's like, I promise I was not hooking up with anyone during that time. I don't know anything about them. Like, I don't have any secrets. I've seen so many memes about him.
About this team. So first, about the logos of the team.
The Montreal Bottoms. The Montreal Bottoms. And the Boston Tops.
Yes. Yes. Whoever was in charge of that, great job. I remember an interview with Jacob Tierney and him saying like, yeah, they showed me this. And a lot of people were like, is this too much? And I was like, no, this is perfect. And I agree, it's perfect. We're not being shy about what we're trying to foreshadow here. About that third guy, it's very interesting how they managed to do these big events scenes with the budget that they had.
$3
because they didn't have
a dream.
a lot to afford extras. So we're gonna see in the big like events. We're gonna see that especially in those like big events, the award ceremonies that we're gonna get, public spaces. So this that we get here is actually a crowd for this season, like for the standards that we get in this during this season. I want to shout out to Valentina V on Instagram, who is a director, and she does. I'm actually not sure if those are the pronouns. I'm just assuming because of the name, so sorry. Valentina does this analysis on the cinematography and especially the camera works on scenes. And what is in Valentina's analysis of this specific scene is how the camera is gonna tell us a lot about how are we feeling as Shane and Ilya. So we get first Shane with his parents and this person from the Montreal metros that is talking very excitedly, and we can delve into the microaggression in a few seconds about how excited he is and how he doesn't care that Shane is half Asian or whatever. But the voices start fading a bit when Yuna starts talking. The only thing that Shane says is, I'm shocked, but I'm really excited to be here. So he's explaining why he's not like super like talkative. And then we get the camera focusing like the center is Shane. And again, this is all Valentina. I want to cite my sources. So the center of our scene is Shane. Everyone else is moving, talking, doing stuff, and Shane is just existing there. Like, and we are with him. We are the only ones with him until he looks up and meets eyes with Ilya. And that's when the camera goes to Ilya. So we leave Shane and we go to Ilya. And then we get something very similar with we're focusing on Ilya. We again see like with the person from the Montreal Metros, we see the person from the Boston Raiders, only his back. We don't see his face very much. We see Ilya's dad after. First, we hear his voice, but we're focusing on Ilya's expressions. So the camera work here is communicating a lot. First, how awkward they both feel in this situation, how maybe this is something that is happening to them, not with them. They're being like they were drafted and now they have a boss, and that boss is also talking to the parents a lot. They're still like kind of kids and also adults. There's a lot of attention, so they're maybe really tired and overwhelmed by the noise, by the faces, by the action. We see Ilya being mistreated by his father. being sold as a lazy person, which is not a very good move if the father wants Ilya to like succeed. And you don't talk, you listen in Russian. We also see how the families see these two players. So we got the media, how the media sees them. Then we have why they were drafted and why they wanted them in these teams. And then we see the families and how they respond to the praise to their sons. So there's a lot there, and the fact that we stay with Ilya and with Shane the whole time reminds us we are not here for the external POV. We're here for the intimacy of this and how it feels to be in this situation as a young man just out, and one could argue not actually out of adolescence.
Yeah. This is an audio medium, so I want to say that Lauren and I are both nodding along with what Lau is saying. We're not just quiet to be quiet. We're like nodding along, like yes, exactly that.
Yeah. And we're like nodding along. Yeah. I mean, I
Yes.
have like so many thoughts in this in general. One of the things that like this first scene is always like always brings me back to is that Shane loves hockey and Ilya loves Shane. Like that fact, like Shane's face at not being the number one, even if he's not like what Boston wants in a player, because like his hockey style, like even we hear it back in the first, like in the International Prospect Cup, like what the part we were just talking about, where they're like, Shane's really fast on pucks, like he's got this insane hockey IQ. But it seems like when Ilya's dad is talking to Boston, he's like, oh, we would like never like pass on a guy who's this strong on puck, which means like he's just like a bigger, more brutal player and has that good of hands, which means he like can handle the puck really well. And so it doesn't even seem like Shane would fit in Boston's like system, but the fact that he's not number one overall is like disappointing to Shane. Like the fact that he tried his hardest and this kid still beat him out, like you can tell he's upset in that scene. And so like that's the first thing that like stands out to me in that, is that Shane loves hockey and Ilya loves beating Shane. Like Ilya loves playing the game with Shane. We move into this like second scene, and actually this is where I like to juxtapose Shane's parents versus Ilya's dad, because I mean, ultimately, this all comes down to capital in some way, shape, or form. Yes, Shane's parents really want him to do whatever he wants, but like Yuna is about getting the bag. Like, she's just about getting the bag in a way that will benefit Shane, whereas Ilya's dad is about getting the bag in a way that will benefit him or will benefit Alexei, his other son, right? And so it's all about like the connotations of like capitalism in that kind of scenario that I think are really interesting. Okay, so what we have to talk about is we have to talk about the way that Shane and him being Asian is portrayed in this show. And this is like one of my biggest points of critique in this novel and of like white authors in general. And it's that white authors like oftentimes do not really know how to write races other than their own. So we see whiteness as being like the norm, and the media sees whiteness as being the norm. And the fact that they like call out like Shane and they're like, oh, we like love that he's like Asian Canadian, like that is, it's so fucking disgusting. And it also makes me think about like the players who are currently in the NHL who are Asian or who are Black or who are, you know, people of color, and how like their race is talked about in really kind of like disgusting kind of like, oh, look at how great this person is. They're not the norm. They're outside of it. They're not white. So that makes like their participation in this sport like so much more, we can talk about it so much more in a different way. Like Jason Robertson is Filipino. He's a player on the Dallas Stars right now. And he is like the best, one of the best American goal scorers in the league right now. And he just got passed over for the US men's Olympic team. They did not put J Rob on the team, which It's because of racism. It's because of racism. Like, I don't know what else to fucking say, bro. And then for this show to be like, to make such a big deal in the first episode about like, oh, Shane's Asian, like his mom is an immigrant because like Yuna is talking about how like
She started
she learned
feeling
English by
Canadian.
watching like
Yeah,
the
that's what
Montreal
she says.
metros. Like she clearly she is an immigrant too, but then to not mention his race like any other time, like it is a complete nothing burger. It is like, why the fuck did we write this character as Asian and then just like not talk about it at all? Like, what is the point? Because in the NHL, in a league where you have over 80% of people are whites, like race is a big thing that we talk about. Like I hear it in the way that people talk about like black players and how their rants against like black players playing styles immediately are anti-black, and they will go on these like rants about their playing and like how they act in the locker room and all of these things, and they are like intrinsically rooted in anti-blackness. And then to like not talk about any of that in the show, like to not address like the fact that Shane is probably getting slurs hurled at him in both the locker room and on the ice every time he steps out on the ice. He is probably facing like an unprecedented amount of media narrative about his race. And then to just have like this one kind of like throwaway moment and then never mention it again, it feels so disingenuous. And it's like, what is even the point? Because honestly, what it feels like to me is that you were like, I need to have diversity in my novel, so I'm just going to make this character Asian and then do nothing else about it. And that's one of my biggest critique.
He mentions it's like there's like maybe one other mention of like, oh, people look up to me and it's insinuated, and it's like, okay, but like how? Like there's just no like attribution to it anywhere else. And I think that we'll talk about this further on our episode of intersectionality, but I do think that if the overall antagonist of this story is the NHL for its oppressiveness to queer people and its homophobia, I think you have to add in all of the other isms and the other ways that it is oppressive. I think that's so important. And so to me it is like to demonstrate that there are microaggressions and to demonstrate that this structure and this system is flawed in this way and is oppressive about this because the way this disgusting way that they're talking about it, I think it's a start to highlight it. But the fact that it's not continued throughout, and the fact that he's not getting slurs, like we get like I think an F slur later, not even on the ice, it's from the Alexi. But I think that there could have been other ways to highlight that Shane struggles this way, because we've said before that like Ilya struggles so much. She has so many other, or maybe I saw it elsewhere, but Ilya has so many of these struggles going on with Russia, like we said, and so many other like oppressive forces and problems, like his father and his brother, like these problems. And Shane has this almost hunky dory life, like he has nearly no problems, and he has so much support. And so I think it would have given him some more depth if they had shown some more strife, or see like if you mention it here, I think you need to follow through. And if it's a problem, not a problem, but like a personal problem for him of like, oh yeah, he's this like they're tokenizing representation of Asianness in the NHL. What other implications does that have for him later on, aside from just the sports mentioned during the French interview? Yeah, those are my thoughts as well.
Yes.
I do hope that we get more in season 2. Because I do agree, and with JJ as well, and you two know that I'm so excited to talk about JJ when he comes into the story, because Haitian immigration is so important to me. And I do think that we're missing that whole thing. I think it's more present in the series than it was in the books. Please do better. I wanted to highlight one thing that I think is it's much more, I don't know if this was Jacob Turney's work or the actor who plays Shane's father, David. But when the Montreal Metros says, "Oh, we don't even care," Yuna is keeping a straight face. Like we can see how much territory she has in dealing with this, of course, because she's an immigrant, and she does the I don't register what you're saying and changes the subject, right? But David,
he clocks that. He's like,
David looks ready to jump this guy. Like he's just like looking around, and then he hears that and he's like, "Excuse me? Pardon?"
yeah, I'm thinking about like what Jacob Tierney said in like relation to like, okay, we didn't show like Shane prepping, like doing an enema before it. And like, I know there will be some criticism that like, yes, this story isn't about Shane's race, but like the fact is that this,
But it is. But it
it is.
is.
The fact
It
is
is.
that Shane would, like players of color, like Black, brown, indigenous people in the league currently, Shane would be missing out on certain things, like certain captaincy, like he would be missing out on the Olympics because of the color of his skin, because that's how the league functions with its all white owners. And
And
it's
his queerness is much more of a problem because he is not white.
right.
And that's important. Just as Ilya's queerness is a problem because he's Russian, and
Yeah.
that in itself is very complicated.
Yes, right. And it's
For
Yeah.
Shane, like the hypersexualization of Asian people is gonna play into that. The way that he is already having to fight in a hostile environment,
Yeah.
him saying that he's gay is gonna add to that.
right.
Like, there's so much.
Right, and like the fact
That-
that like Yuna even gets the respect that she does from like this Montreal Metro,
And the way
like,
she accepts it and
general
plays
manager,
into it, I think,
'cause
is
she
what gets her
wouldn't
that
get
respect, and
that
the way
in the
that she is so
NHL
calm
right
about it.
now.
Because you know,
Like
if
she
she had
wouldn't
tried
get
to
that
call
in
him out
any
like David
league right
wanted
now.
to,
Like
if she had tried to do that, it would have they could have very well been like, oh, you know, maybe we don't want Shane actually. Like maybe if this is going to be a problem, they would have absolutely done that. And also, I did want to throw out, I believe Canadian marriage equality for queer people was established in like 2005. I think it was before this show takes place. So I think for most of Shane's life, he has known that, or he has had that, like it was like fine, more or less fine, like in his teenage years when it was legalized. But also that is like something where he's like, oh yeah, like queer people have a right. Not that he knows that this time that he's queer, but I want to throw that out there. And then also within this scene, something that I am gonna track on the low. I'll mention it a couple other times, but like we don't even get the face of these people speaking, of these the face of these people committing these microaggressions. There's a scene later on during the commercial where it's like we don't get the face, like because like what Lau's saying of this is Shane and Ilya's story, it's not about the rest of them, but of the way that there are so many people in their lives that they interface with that we don't even get to see the face of like people like their coaches. It's like an off screen voice. And I don't know if that's because of the budget or whatever, but I think it contributes to this narrative of the way of like they have all these people around them that are saying things to them and directing them and giving them these things that control their lives, and then we don't even see their face. It's almost like in cartoons where it's like the parent is like, we only get their body, you know?
and then this is even echoed over into like the media that Hudson and Connor are doing, where Hudson is facing like anti-Asian microaggressions in interviews and has to deal with that.
Yeah.
Like, so this is like, I mean, racism. Whoo! Title of the show.
I think we're gonna do a special episode on that as well, so we don't digress as much. But I do think it is so critical and so important to follow. And we're gonna keep pointing it out because it is relevant and it is important, and I do want to keep talking about it.
To the thing that Amanda is saying about these faceless people, I think it might have something to do with budget, but what it communicates in the cinematography is that there's a system, not an individual, that is doing this. And that I love. I love the fact that the NHL is faceless and that the journalists are also.
So you can't hold them responsible.
Yes and no, because you can hold them responsible, but also you can understand how there is something that goes deeper than these individuals' choices, right? Like you are being told this is a culture, this is a system that benefits of this, right? So we can be David and want to jump this person, but there is a systemic issue that needs fixing, because if you don't fix the system, you're just gonna get more and more of these people, even if you get rid of them.
Exactly. And like Shane has to kind of shut up and take it, unfortunately, because this is what is his job, you know? Like, and this is the reality that like Black, Indigenous, brown people like face in their work positions, in their social positions, like just constant microaggressions from white people, and the fact that they just have to shut up and take it because it's tied to capital again.
Exactly.
Wait, should we just call this capitalism heated rivalry?
Listen, capitalism is a problem, and I am very aware of it right now, today. Thank you.
Oh,
I am located in a specific part of our geography that makes me think of capitalism as a problem. So yeah.
right, exactly. And yes, I realize like I am a white person and this conversation about race is like something that I am very much like outsider looking in. But I think something that we consistently kind of talk about in media studies is like the idea of like meaningful representation versus just representation. And so I very much feel like while it's great that we have like a white Asian or like a Canadian Asian person as our like lead for this show, that meaningful representation and like more delving into that identity and what exactly it means, especially in relation to the entire NHL and their like history of racism, is I think something that like the show and the books should do more of because, like I said, like Shane would most likely not get the opportunities because of his race and because of the way that the like NHL functions and just because racism is so inherently ingrained in these like systemic oppressive sports complexes. I mean, I could go on and talk about how the draft is really just an example, a like modernized example of the slave trade, but it's like that is for a whole nother pod or episode or whatever. So
I agree with you, and I think what happens is you're teasing this, right? You're
yeah.
mentioning it. I understand this is
Mm-hmm.
women's, right? So we're like kind of putting our rose glasses on and idealizing a lot of things. But if you're touching all of these other things, not touching on the race part as much,
Yeah.
feels uncomfortable, feels like something is left there that you didn't
Yes.
explore, that deserves to be explored as much as the other parts. So I understand if we were just like pretending this is paradise and everyone is the same, we will not be telling Ilias and Shane's
Right.
story, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
I do think that this story in particular asks, like, the narrative is asking you to go there,
Yeah.
and I am expecting them to go there in the future. Not necessarily as like portraying a lot of aggressions towards the character, but I want to see how being who he is in like his entirety affects the way he's going to deal with a lot of the issues we will see him dealing with in the next season.
Yeah, I mean, we should probably move on from this point. I mean, I can talk about this point forever,
Me
and we
too.
will have an episode like dedicated to intersectionality. But moving on, after the draft, when Ilya and his dad are talking to the Boston rep, I think that's the first moment that we get a memory issue with his dad. Like, I think his dad's already having memory issues there, and I'm going to theorize why. Because the way that Ilya looks at his dad is almost like I'm scared of what you're going to say because I don't know if it's going to be like the other person is going to be able to understand what you're saying. Not I'm scared of what you're going to say because I think it's going to be something against me. I think Ilya has made his peace with the fact that his dad doesn't like him. I think that moment is like Ilya being like, oh shit, I know my dad has been having memory problems or memory issues. And I'm afraid he's going to say something in front of this rep that's going to make this rep or this GM or whoever think that I will not be able to be on this team because of your failing health issues. And so then when we go to after this scene where they're in the where they're on the bikes and it's the World Juniors Part 2, which I can explain why it's World Juniors Part 2, but I'll get into that in a second, where Ilya's talking to his brother and his dad. He tells his brother, he's like, he asked me to go get bread, like to bring home bread the other day. And so I think that like further reinforces my hypothesis that like Ilya is not afraid of what his dad could say to insult him. He's afraid of how his dad being like perceived could impact his career. Because then he does say something like when he does start talking to his dad, like a bunch of things happen that make you kind of like think that this is maybe an issue. So that was one of my thoughts that I wanted to talk about in the
Interesting.
draft.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think in hindsight that is a really good thing because at the time you're like, oh, he's like such an asshole. Like, why would he say that in front of Ilya's boss? But I think in hindsight that is a really, really interesting point to make.
Right. And so I think that also like goes back and further informs when Ilya and Shane meet at the Prospect Cup the first time, like all of the other stressors that Ilya's having. Because like if we think about dementia is it's like
Mm-hmm.
it
That makes
happens
sense. Yeah.
gradually, right? It's like people start forgetting things. And so he also might be dealing with that kind of stress at the World Juniors the first time or the International Prospect Cup the first time. But moving on to the next part of this episode, which is the infamous biking scene. Also, okay, I just want to see what y'all think because in the books, they're running on treadmills. So why do we think, because Jacob Tierney, he doesn't do anything without thinking. Why do we think he changed from treadmills to bikes?
I think it's easier.
Do you think it was just like that was what they had and they like...
No. I think it's easier to film, to have them side by side on bikes than on treadmills. Like the distance that you
okay.
be safe when two people are using treadmills to run, you cannot have that closeness and that intimacy that we start getting with the bikes. And also, it would make more sense to me that they're both training in the middle of the night. Evidently, Shane is like, this was too much, I need exercise. So it would make more sense to me for them to go and sit on bikes, you know, just like to do a small cardio workout to clear my head before sleep, then go up on a treadmill and do like ups, downs. Now I need inclination, you know, like there's a lot in there that you can show with a bike. Make it harder with the screw, but you can have them closer together. There's less noise than like a machine that you have to turn on. And that is so important because one of the key elements of this scene and why you get so into it and you discover how the sexual tension is there is because of the breathing and nothing else. So if you have a lot of noise, you lose that. You lose all that. We don't have them, like we're not presented to them face to face. We see Shane and we see Ilya's shadow, right? And I think all of that is so important to understand how intimate, how close they are, and how this is one of those pivotal moments where we understand how good they are at nonverbal communication. I envy them because that I suck at that. Shane is there. He has his like he's listening to music. He's in his bike. He feels Ilya, but he never turns his head to look at Ilya. And Ilya starts, and Shane is very aware of the pace. So Shane starts pedaling faster. And then Ilya is doing the same, we know because of the breathing. And they non-verbally decide to compete, right? And eventually Shane concedes because he's tired. So, but there's no dialogue here. Nothing but...
No. Oh my god, the breaths.
Okay? Nothing else. The dialogue comes after that. And I just want to highlight that because I think in the terms of how you portray intimacy on screen, a lot of people are thinking about lights and how you see and you don't see. And all of that is very important. Like, how do you simulate penetration? How do you simulate a blowjob? But how you tell the story about how these people connect, for me, and make the spectator feel like they are in the room with these people because we are sweating as well. Our breathing, our heartbeat connects to them because of the sound. Like the way we focus exclusively on the it's very important. If we had like a song playing and some banter, we will have a completely different dynamic being presented to us. This is like they click, the chemistry, the rivalry, everything is clicking here. But also the fact that they didn't agree to meet. They just did, right? They were both in need of the same thing. So there's a lot of here how what we're gonna see in the next 10 years of this relationship being presented
Yes.
to us in this biking scene through
Yeah.
breath and sweat. Like this is
My favorite.
brilliant in terms of intimacy representation. This is great because they click not only when they're fucking, they click in their moods. When they click, because there's miscommunication as well, when they click, the chemistry is off the charts, and the way they know what the other is doing is just incredible.
Yeah.
I have something I want to say, something else about the gym scene before I'm done with it. Just, I want us to look at the outfits and what they're telling us. How Shane is way more covered than Ilya. How Ilya's posture from the beginning, after they ride the bikes and they sit on the floor, his body language is very open, while Shane is covering himself some way and keeping his extremities to his chest a lot. Ilya is the one reaching with feet and hands and eyes. They're basically not blinking. There's almost no blinking here. And well, we have the infamous water finger touching, but I think that's what people like highlight the most in the edits, in the discourse. But the foot touch, which is something Amanda is tracking, so we have our first, right?
Yes.
And the body language, the
Yes.
way Ilya's like legs open, arms open, chest out, tank top, and Shane is like has a long sleeve, high neck. His arms are against his chest, his legs are folded, and slowly he starts relaxing and he starts opening his extremities towards Ilya. So I think that is again great work from intimacy coordination. I'm sure. Like I'm sure there's something there, the work they're doing with the intimacy coordinator, and we can talk about that later
Yeah.
a bit more because the work with
Yeah.
intimacy on screen is just brilliant.
Yeah. I think the foot touches also really contribute to
Uh-huh.
the nonverbal communication, which is why I want to track it, is because it's just, again, goes back to their nonverbal communication and how in sync and how in click they are, or like how well they click. And I also wanted to point out, why is Ilya dropping his asshole facade with Shane here? Like the physical openness, like you're saying, and then another attempt at friendliness. Like Ilya says, be seeing each other a lot, and he's kind of almost matching Shane's openness from the first scene of them, of like, oh, like I really admire you, like all this. Like I feel like he's trying to reconnect a bit of that, because Shane is like, okay, I know you as an asshole now, like why are you offering me your water? Why are you being nice to me? I think that Ilya really only drops this asshole facade with Shane. I think this is our first instance of that, and so I was curious about what y'all thought about that and like unpacking
I
that.
think this is like a really vulnerable moment for
Mm-hmm.
Ilya. The line that really gets me is when he's like, Montreal is nice, and then he's like, Boston is nice too. And I'm like, this poor little baby, like, he's never been to America. He's never, like, he's probably been to America. He's probably come and seen these teams. Like, because typically before the draft, there's something called a draft combine, and you like go and basically meet all your teams in person and talk to them and do like exercising and stuff, but he's like never lived in America. He is just this little guy who has no support system, as we can tell, like based on his family interactions leading up until this point. He's clearly got like some kind of issue with his dad, who's maybe going through something potentially. And so he's like very alone. And he's also, like seen Shane with his parents and with his support system. And maybe that like changes things a little bit for him. Maybe he's like, all right, like, maybe I can joke around with this guy a little bit. Maybe I can be a little more open to him because I am so alone in this. So I think it's like a really great moment for vulnerable, like, Ilya that we like are able to see in the first couple of episodes, which we don't really get on like large scale until the fourth episode, which is vulnerable Ilya central.
Yeah,
So
and he's like, okay, we clicked. I know you. You're familiar. Nothing else here is familiar, and we've been seeing each other a lot. So,
Mm.
and we met at this odd hour here. So we have things in common. I need a friend. I need to feel like I know someone, and you're nice. And I remember that time when you approached me, and I was probably not in my best behavior. So I think that's what's happening here. And also, Ilya knows that Shane is probably sad about being second. right? So he's like offering that olive branch because he admires Shane as a player and as a person.
Yes.
And I think this should be the scene used in the argument against the Ilya haters. Ilya is a toxic, abusive partner to
Yes.
um
Yes. Also, he checks Shane out a bunch in this episode.
uh-huh,
And like
uh-huh.
this scene, and Shane's checking him out a bunch. And so it's
Oh
like
yeah,
the yearning is there, baby.
the eyes are going
Like
to those
the eyes.
the crotch.
Yes. Him saying more, like that stopped me in my tracks the first time I watched it. I had to like pause the show and like get up and go get a drink of water because I was like, I don't know if I can handle this.
And
Like,
the water sounds. Who else was thirsty?
Yeah.
who's
I mean,
who
they
is
were
the Foley
obviously.
actor? Give them what they're due.
Next up, we have New Year's Eve 2009, and we're in Ottawa, Ontario, in the International Prospect Cup. So first season on their team.
And this is the first season on their team.
No,
Oh, sorry.
it's not the first. Well, okay, let's explain a little bit how drafting works.
Very good, so go.
But it's been a year after
No,
they
okay,
were...
No.
So after you're drafted, most, like, unless you are like the overall first round pick, most of the time, like, you go back to your junior teams, or you go to like the AHL, the American Hockey League, or you go back to like your European country. If they were in their NHL teams, if they were on the Raiders and the Metros, they wouldn't be playing in the Prospect Cup because that happens during the NHL season, and the NHL is like, it's the show. Like, she's way more important than playing for a juniors tournament. So they most likely did not have, like, a lot of times players will spend time in like college or in junior leagues to like work on building up their skills, playing against like bigger and better opponents before they are brought back to teams, like either at the end of the year or they are or they do training camp at the beginning of the NHL season, which is in September, and they pass through training camp and the preseason and then are like on the roster for the team. So they probably
That makes a lot of sense
their...
because they are playing against each other as Russia and Canada just a few scenes after that.
Yes.
That's why
Yeah,
that's why
Because
Ilya
I
is
was like...
in Ottawa. It's because he's gonna play.
So for example, this year the Blackhawks had the 3rd overall draft pick, and we drafted a kid named Anton Frendell from Sweden. And he came to training camp. He played in he didn't play in a preseason game. But after training camp, they were like, you're still not a strong enough player to make the Blackhawks roster for this year. So you're going to go back to your league in Sweden, and you're going to play in your league in Sweden for another year. And then next year at training camp, we'll like reevaluate you. And so then he played on Sweden's team for the World Juniors, and Sweden ended up winning gold for World Juniors. So he was one of the reasons why they won gold, because he's an amazing player. So he's just like building up his talent on a European league this year before he comes back to the Blackhawks again next year. So it's not that
I see. So it's almost like their junior year they would get drafted, so that way then after like their senior year, theoretically.
Yeah, so they get drafted during like their senior year, and then it would be like, but like some of them go to college and you play in the NCAA, or you go back to a junior league and you play in the junior league, or you go to a European league. Like Austin Matthews was drafted to the Toronto Maple Leafs, but like the year before he was on he played a year after because he didn't make the Toronto Maple Leafs roster, I think the first year, and he played a year in a European league, I think, but I'm not really sure. But yeah, it's very typical for your draft, like if you get drafted in 2025, let's say, you don't play the season in 2025.
Okay.
The only, like, there are some exceptions, and it's usually the 1st overall pick. Like Macklin Celebrini, Connor Bedard, and Matthew Schaefer are the last 3 first-round overall draft picks, and they all played their first years on their respective teams.
I'm so glad we have an expert on this because that explains a lot. So,
because I was not paying attention to the teams at all. I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And then, but we see my main point with it being was that they there's this really cool framing of them, like we see the like loser crossing, like it's the same framing of like the team celebrating in the back, and then our side of the couple that we're following, the loser of them like hanging their head sliding across the ice of the screen. I thought it was a really cool device, and so I was like, oh yeah, like 1-1, like they're both tied now, but they're tied not on their own teams, but in this
Yeah, and that's why Ilya is getting very aggressively reprimanded by his father as someone who represents Russia and not someone who plays for the Boston Lakers. I wanted to just point out at some things that were happening during this moment in the world. So we continue with the economic crisis. The US is in Afghanistan. Please look that up, given the fact that a lot of similar things are happening again. Fun fact, it was both a blue moon and a lunar eclipse that night where Ilya is talking to his family in his hotel room.
What is the astrology on that? Where's my astrology girlies? Tell me what that means.
I need someone to explain that. Please, if you're an astrology person, hit us up with a comment.
Astrology girlies, hit us up.
Both DC and Mexico passed a same-sex marriage law in December of that year, 2009. And the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union comes into effect, and it includes a protection of sexual orientation. So we see we're not there yet, but we're getting some recognition in the legal side of the things, and we also get important astrology events that we cannot understand. We as us three.
We don't know.
We have no idea.
Help us.
Yeah. If you leave a comment or message us, we'll include it in our next episode. And then the last thing I wanted to track here that I'm kind of keeping an eye on, that I picked up on my first watch of the show, was the technology. I really liked how they did the technology through this. It's something I'm also like that is in other media where it's like because it so quickly becomes dated at a time where everything moves so quickly. And so I think the technology here is something to really follow. We get the first look at Ilya's, like it's like a BlackBerry-esque type phone that I thought was really cool. And then his dad's contact is in Russian, but Alexei's is in English letters. I didn't know what that was about, but I thought it was interesting. His dad is like, I think it's like the colonel or the commander, like some like other. That was what my subtitle said, was it wasn't dad or father, it was like a title, and then Alexei was in English letters. So yeah, and then we get also in this technology in this episode, we get some like texting, like the texting style changes over time, and like emoticons, and just like it's very like basic type of texting. It's not like the Apple Glass type shit we have now. It is very like the basic bare bones, like square, blocky, chunky messaging. So I thought that
Amanda,
was fun.
we know you don't know what that's like because you were a first grader.
I had a slidey phone in middle school. It slid. It had like the buttons you had to press multiple times on, and it was a whole thing. I was aware of technology.
Did you had a Nokia that wouldn't break with anything? Because I had a Nokia.
Oh my god, I threw my Nokia like across the room one time.
Excuse me, 3 floors down, mine.
3 floors, I like threw it at a wall.
What?
No, we call that here a panela. Panela is like a block of brown sugar.
Like bread.
No, a block of brown sugar. So that's solid as fuck. And we call that a panela.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah, so we see this conversation, and it starts off framed where Ilya's on the bed and we don't see his head or his face. And I think this helps to highlight like how distant he feels from his family, or how distant he feels from his home. That was kind of the impression I got, where it starts off where like, again, like faceless conversation. He's like watching this like New Year's celebration happen, and he is just feeling very disconnected from it all. Like it was set up to be like a very sociable guy where he gets along with his teammates, but then why is he spending New Year's alone? But he gets the call, he skips the call from his dad, and he answers the call from Alexei, his brother. And I think this whole scene sets up his family dynamics and relationships. Yeah. Like his brother as an asshole that just wants money from him. And so he looks down on his brother, but his father is someone that he wants to make proud of. And he's also a little intimidated by, he's obviously like a little scared of him, but he still wants to make him proud. Like he still wants to live up to his father. But his brother, he seems to be like, it's so weird because his brother like is calling him these slurs but still asking him for money, and he's like, oh, we can all live without you. Can you? You're asking him for money. Can you? So
he means we can live without you.
Yeah, so I was just like, it's so icky, and I mean obviously it's icky, but it sets up Alexei as this asshole that's just gonna keep asking from Ilya until he's drained. But I was just like, I just understand Ilya so deeply here, like the family that you can't stand but like that you love, like to have family as a core belief and as a core value, but them as people, they just suck. Yeah.
I'm gonna push back a little bit here on the Ilya trying to impress his
Mm.
father, because I don't think Ilya, like, I think Ilya cares for him in that he is his father, but I don't think Ilya cares about impressing his dad with hockey, because I think Ilya is aware that, like, nothing he does is ever good enough for this man. And, like, especially as we learn more in the long game, but even as we learn in heated rivalry, like how close Ilya was to his mother and how like much her death and like her suicide affected him and how much it was intrinsically tied to his father. I don't think Ilya is that connected to his dad. I think Ilya is trying to be the best at something, because I think that's what Ilya wants, is to be the best and to do the competition. And so I think that's where maybe he's upset at himself for not doing well enough. But I don't really think he cares about what his father thinks, especially as he becomes more distant from them and like is becoming into like his own, as we see in like episode 2 and episode 4, where he like is living in the United States most of the time. He's not really going back to Russia except for the summers. Like he really becomes his own person and it like distances himself from his family.
Yeah, I see that too.
I can
Okay.
see what you're saying, but I think it's both. Like, there's like
Yeah.
a rational part of Ilya that knows all of this, right? And that resents a lot of things as well. But also, and I say this because of things he will say in the next episodes as well, because of how I'm thinking of Frankenstein here. I'm thinking of the way Guillermo del Toro rewrote it. You know, like what Del Toro does in his movie is that he shows us Dr. Frankenstein's education with his father, and this resolve not to be like his father, but at the same, like in the sense that I'm gonna push back against what you said was
Yeah.
impossible, but at the same time the daddy issues are there. Right? And that's why Dr. Frankenstein is the worst father ever, because he didn't deal with what he carried. And I think Ilya is dealing with something super complex of knowing nothing he does will ever be enough. But if he was as distant as we wish him
That's
to
true.
be, for his own sake, send money, he wouldn't take the calls.
Right.
And he feels like he's connected to these
Yeah.
people and that things should be different. And it hurts him, but he cannot leave them because he feels like they're my family. So I think he is navigating that line between my reason tells me my father is not a good man, my brother is not a good man, I deserve better, people should not be treated this way, but my emotions are telling me this is what I have to deal with, and I have a responsibility here, and I'm still linked emotionally to these people, even though it's the most painful relationship I have.
Yeah. And I'm also wondering like how much of a like cultural impetus is also there. I mean, my family is like mostly Polish, but there is kind of like an ingrained like thing where like children take care of their parents as like their parents age, and especially like in general. And I know like from what I know about hockey and what I've experienced in hockey culture, first of all, hockey is like immensely cost prohibitive, and a lot of hockey players will, their parents will spend like 20, $30,000 a year for them to be on like high leagues when they are children, like AAA or in juniors or whatever. And so I know that a lot of hockey players like feel indebted to their parents when they like make the show, that they want to like pay back like all of the money that they have earned for, like, or all the money that they like spent when they were children. So they like buy their parents cars and houses and whatever because they feel like indebted. So I feel like that's maybe also a part of this like Ilya psyche that we're kind of talking about as well.
Yeah, that's so true. I don't know the Russian culture that well. I only know mine.
Yeah.
Which is very family
Yo,
centric.
if you're Russian, chime in.
Yeah, please. Because I come like
if we got any Russians in chat.
For me this makes a lot of sense because I'm from Colombia and Latin American people, this is a very Catholic culture and family is the center of everything, and stranging yourself from your family brings a lot of cultural baggage that maybe other cultures don't have. So when I see Ilya, I'm like, yeah, I know so many people that are like you in my culture that will like keep doing this out of this belief that you owe your family something even though they're abusive towards you. But I have no idea how it works in Russia, so I would love to know.
Yeah, and Russia's also Eastern Orthodox Catholic, so they do have like still some of those foundations in like religion and stuff like that. But
Amanda got us a timeline here, and we're around May 2010. So we're in Toronto, commercial shoot. I just wanted to say that 2010 is a very interesting year for queer rights, especially in the Western world, but not exclusively. Some highlights are the decriminalization of homosexuality in Fiji, the legalization of same-sex marriage in Iceland, and the Don't Ask, Don't Tell Repeal Act is signed into law in the US. So those are the highlights, but the Wikipedia entry for Queer History 2010 is worth exploring. It's all I'm saying. Like, just go there and look it up. So we're in the commercial.
The commercial. Okay, so like
very interesting.
This is just a hockey point, but so in the books, it's a photo shoot for CCM, which is a hockey like brand. And I like it's probably not a CCM photo shoot like in the show because I caught this because I know this, but like Ilya's gloves are Bauer and his stick is Sherwood, which is like totally different brands. And so if it was actually a CCM photo shoot, like he would not have those gloves or that stick.
I do know there is CCM in the show though. I've seen it on some of the different players, like either shirts or helmets.
Right, but I don't know if it was like specifically a CCM photo shoot or if they were just doing like it's a Rivals photo shoot, you know, like kind of type B. So yeah, this is like when Ilya was like, no, I wanted you here. Like it was my idea for you to be here. I was like, oh, he loves you. Like, oh,
can we be friends?
Can we be friends? Can we
and again, like it's it is very like Ilya dropping that assholery. Like this is him reaching out, and it's so contrary to what the public views as Ilya. And so I thought that was just so. I was like, you little sweetheart, you're such a softie. Which in one of the books, I don't remember because I've been binging them, but some of them do. One or two of the main characters in the other books are like, secretly I think Rosanov's a softie, and I'm like, you're right.
Yes, he is. He's so mushy.
And when he says, you look pretty, Shane is immediately like, this must be an asshole. Like, this has to be like, he must be making like a misogynistic point here. Shane does not read that as actually you look pretty.
No, as like flirting.
I fully believe Ilya was 100% honest. Like, you look pretty. I'm this close to you, and I can see how pretty you look. They did a good job.
No, literally, like.
Think about his freckles.
The freckles. Like, can you imagine being like face to face with your crush like that, and then being like, "You look pretty," and not being like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna melt into the floor."
Yes, I have had that.
Like, you say melt, Lauren, and I think that's the perfect word for what happens in this scene. We start very cold, very distant, and in the ice, you know, and as the more we do this, the more we approach each other for the shoot, the more we laugh, the more we connect, and the closer we are.
Yeah.
And I found that to be so simple and perfect. They're melting the ice between each other, and
they're literally melting the ice.
Yes, yes. It all starts with "you look pretty."
Yeah,
you look so pretty.
I also wanted to reiterate how impersonal it is with the staff. Like what I was talking about earlier of like the faceless people, like we're solely
The
focused on them. Like the
shadows.
rest of the in-universe world, like they don't really exist. Like again, once again, it is these people that are like directing them, like, okay, one more take, y'all, like we're almost done, like all these people that are like off center, but also they become each other's worlds. Like eventually they don't see anyone except for each other. But I thought this was like, I was on my rewatch and I was like, it's just there's something so impersonal about how I don't know anyone there. Is it their coaches? Is Yuna back there? Like I don't.
Jacob Tierney and Brendan, the producer. Like it's actually them.
Is it really? That's so funny.
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually them.
And I love that we're the POV of the cameras, because again, this is highlighting that we are not hearing the story from the POV of the audience. We are privy to the intimacy of this couple. And so we are close enough that we hear what they're saying to each other. We are laughing with them. We are part of that bubble. And the shadows are somewhere else. So again, brilliant cinematography.
All right, talking cinematography, we gotta get the shot of the butts in the shower.
Okay,
Yes.
let's go to the shower. Let's get to the shower. No, wait,
We're going to the shower.
No, there's something we need to do before that, because we
Oh
were talking.
no!
Yes, we were talking about race, and there's one comment.
Yeah.
There's one comment that is approaching a bit what we were asking for, but again, it's just teasing it and not delving deeper into it. And it's when Yuna is coaching Shane, and Shane is just like, "Oh, Ilya is just skating in the ice, my little princess," and Yuna's like, "Pay attention."
Well, yeah, because it's like the intro to this scene. The transition, is like you think that it's framed as where he's thinking about that conversation with Ilya, and then we snap to when Yuna is like, "Shane, are you listening to me?" And he was he's like looking down, thinking about Ilya, and so that's when you're first like,
I'm mimicking Siri.
Yes, for our audio media, Lau is dancing and prancing around
on
the
our
screen.
screens right now.
And Yuna is like, a lot of kids are gonna look up at you. A lot of kids who don't see themselves represented in this medium.
Wait, I have the stat. Of course I do.
While you look for that, I just wanted to point out how immigrants, children of immigrants, and most minorities live their lives, or we live our lives, depend on which point of my life we're talking about, with that weight on our shoulders about like how we are viewed as a monolithic representative of our culture or group. And the way the pressure to not make mistakes, to be successful, to be virtuous is higher. And there's a lot of trauma in immigrant communities about this. There's a lot of trauma in minorities to prove to the white cis et Western power that we are worthy of being alive, of being given opportunities, and we're constantly passing a test. And this is what Yuna is saying to Shane. And it was heartbreaking to me, because that is what puts him back into the conversation. Before that, he's like, yeah, you're talking about sneakers, or you know, like you're talking about brands. I'm not here. I'm with Ilya, and suddenly you remind me of how I am the Asian boy in hockey, and of those little Shanes that are looking up at me, and how I must be a good example. And he locks in, and it broke my heart, because I've seen it, you know, and I've lived it. You have to prove that even though you're Colombian, you don't sell drugs, you know, you're not part of narco culture. That is just one example of my very super mega privileged life. But it just broke my heart to see him come back to earth after he was like crushing on Ilya so hard.
That's a really important perspective. Thank you for that, Lau.
Thank you. Now we can go to the shower and do fabulous butts if we want.
Yeah, now let's go take a shower. Okay. So first of all, I would like to thank Connor's story for being the motivation for me to get an ass like his this year. I would just like to start off this conversation with Jesus fucking Christ.
Yes.
Boy butts. We get full boy butts.
As someone who has an inability to grow an ass, you know, because I was scammed in the genetic lottery of my family.
It's a genetic pool.
I'm just like, literally, I sit in a hard chair and I feel the hard chair. There's no cushion there. I thank Connor's story for the fantasy of me maybe getting an ass eventually. That is half of what his is. Thank you.
And truly, that is so accurate to hockey players. I follow a lot of hockey accounts on internet because I'm obsessed. And sometimes they be posting pictures from the gym, and I'm just like, God damn, these men are double cheeked up on a Tuesday. Like,
They have the whole bakery in
they
there.
have the whole bakery and then some. I know we don't want to yeah, wow.
Sexualized men? Really? Never? You don't want to?
I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't. Okay. So here's the thing: is there has been in the past famous book talker who harassed and stalked a Seattle Kraken player after reading hockey romance novels, which is not okay, by the way. These people are at work when you go to hockey games. Like, that is their job. And if men showed up to your job and said things like now kiss or like I want you to fuck me or made weird things about you during warm-ups, you would also not be okay with it.
Yep.
No, that is very real. Please do not harass real hockey players, even if their butts look like that. You can appreciate by just liking an Instagram post and scrolling away.
You can ask for their nude routine.
Yeah.
And try it yourself.
We need to go back to being parasocial in private, okay? Stop being parasocial in hockey team's Instagram comments, y'all.
Real.
Unless it's asking Hockey Canada why they let the rapists from the Canada 5 trial back into the NHL, and also if they can bring back the Canada Fleece.
You will have to explain that on another time.
Yes!
I don't know about that, but I would love to know.
No. Have I mentioned that the NHL is terrible yet? Has that been brought up?
Yes, I believe we know.
Amazing. Back to the shower scene.
Wait, also, you were going to bring up statistics earlier about, I think, maybe race.
Okay, so I looked. There are 83% white players in the league, and 90% of the officials are white. So there's 35 current Black players on rosters, 19 players of Asian descent, 8 players of First Nation or Indigenous descent, 3 Latine players, and 3 Middle Eastern North African players.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that is very small percentages.
Yeah, very largely majority white.
Yes, and a lot of them are Trump supporters. I'm so sorry to tell everyone. Like the Chucklefuck brothers, the Kachuk brothers, but I call them the Chucklefuck brothers. They are like, one of them is sitting on Donald Trump's like women in sports committee about how to keep trans women out of sports. So yeah, hockey's not good right now, guys. Anyways, the shower.
Besides the butts.
Besides the butts.
We appreciate.
Okay. So Shane is just showering because we need to break this scene down because some people are out there wild and on the internet talking about certain things.
Some people are watching shows while they scroll on their phones and not paying attention. Some people should.
I don't know how you do that with this show. Like, I don't know how you. I am like glued to the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyways, so Shane is like showering. Ilya walks in. Shane, okay. From my notes, which I like slowed this down and like looked at it in a bunch of different ways. Shane looks first at him when he comes into the shower. And like, I've been in a locker room before. You don't do that. Like, you just kind of keep your eyes to yourself. So Shane like looks and stares at Ilya. So there's an interest there, at least. And they, like we said, they flirted before this. There's been an interest. Shane has looked at Ilya before. Then Ilya looks at him, looks down, and like raises his eyebrows because Shane's getting hard, right? He's getting a semi. And so then Shane's like, yo, fuck off. Like, embarrassed, right?
Super embarrassed.
You don't sport semis in the shower with your bros, with your guys. Yeah. It is a boner-free zone. And then Shane looks back, even after he's like, fuck off. He like looks back and makes eye contact with Ilya again. And so then Ilya's like, wait, do you want me to fuck off? Or like, if I was Ilya, I would be like, I am missing like all of the things, right? And then like Ilya starts jacking off. Like, and Shane lets it go on. And then he's like, whoa, wait, not here. Not here. Like, and then is trying
Not
to like
here.
go back and be like, forget it happened. Like, because I think he like gets out of the shower and is like, oh, like, oh shit, this could end up really badly for me because if it gets around that I'm gay, like that could go badly for my team that I'm not even on yet. Like,
Yeah, and he wants to be respectful to Ilya, which is why he says, hey, we can forget it happened, it can be no big deal. He's like trying to play it cool, which obviously he's not cool.
Have you ever played it cool?
no.
And
Or tried to?
no, he's literally a day in his
No.
life. No.
He has tried.
I will also say, I don't know if he has tried and failed. I know we have a note about the anecdote about the cock sock, but I also want to say the shoe gets me every time. Every single freaking time is so funny. He's obviously waiting for he's like mostly dressed. He's sitting on the locker room bench. He's like obviously waiting for Ilya to come back. And so he's like waiting. He's like putting on his clothes slowly, but he wants to play it cool again. And so he like goes to pick up his shoe once he sees Ilya is like walking towards him. But then he sees the towel tent and he drops it. My favorite every time. Like he just absolutely fumbles that shit once he sees it. He's like, oh my god, it's hilarious.
I see that point where he's like trying to be like, you're not gonna tell any, because like Shane doesn't trust him, and this is something I talk about in the next section when we get to the room. But Shane doesn't trust him, like, and Ilya is kind of like, I feel like I have an inherent trust with this person because I've done this before, but Shane's never done this before, so he doesn't like know, and he doesn't trust him, and so that's why I think in that moment he's kind of like, let me cover my bases, let me cover your bases, and just be like, we can forget it happened.
Yeah, I want to talk about two things. Is how this scene is again very nonverbal. You can see I'm obsessed with that because I don't know how that works. In human interaction, for me, must be verbal because I don't get the other stuff. But they do, and I envy them. So there's a lot of looks, as Lauren kindly reminded us in the second by second summary of the scene. But I just wanted to point out that we only get two sentences during the shower. Is fuck off and not here, right? The rest is all eyebrow movement, eyes looking places, and hands putting soap in places. That's it. I just wanted to shout out to the hilarious anecdote of the cocksock. So for those who are not very familiar with the garments that are used for intimacy scenes, this is literally like, they call it a cocksock because it's literally like a little bag that
it's like nylon,
a nylon bag,
like a nylon bag.
For other types of scenes where there's friction, they will add a pad to like avoid you feeling the friction. But since this is wet shower, they stuck, and they're not touching, they stuck to the pouch, but the pouch kept getting wet. So in between takes, they had to like either, I don't remember, Hudson said they changed it or just like squeeze it while they wrap a towel around them because it was getting wet. So intimacy garments and showers, that is tricky, and you really need someone who knows how their garments are gonna work before they pitch them to actors and to directors. Which is not to say that Chala Hunter didn't know. This is just hilarious, but it worked. They kept, and this is for those who have not been reading about intimacy coordination. I just want to say, this is not only for the actors not to be fully naked in a scene and to protect them, which is of course very important, but it's also to protect the camera crew, the light crew, the boom crew. Everyone in there deserves to have their boundaries respected, not only the actors.
Yeah.
So even if an actor feels super comfortable with frontal nudity, the team might not, right? Or the other actor might not.
Right.
So that's very important. And also something people don't keep in mind, and this will be relevant for the next intimacy scenes that we will talk about, is you also have to protect your actors against STDs. Or, like, you don't want genital on genital contact. Because that brings a lot of health, not only a lot of like legal issues, regarding mental health, which is very important, about safety, about the difference between like a romance TV show and porn, but also you want to keep everyone healthy and safe from exchanging different types of fluids. So yeah, that
Yeah.
is important, and you can follow a lot of intimacy coordinators.
Hudson was literally there was some interview that I
It
was
was the
watching with
Queen
Hudson.
one,
I think
right?
it was maybe
Mm,
his CNN interview that came out today, but he was literally talking about how like he's very comfortable on set, but like intimacy coordination is also like making
uh-huh.
sure that the cast and crew like feels like fine. And he was like, like when like a light shines on that spot, you want to make sure that like that part is covered so that you have like the consent of like of the other person, that you're like aware of their boundaries too. And so he was talking about that in a little bit. I think it was his CNN interview today.
Yeah, and he also mentions it in the Queen one they did earlier this week or last week, I don't remember. And yeah, I think, and also something that is important to understand is that intimacy coordination is about how to best tell the story through intimacy. So maybe you feel comfortable being fully naked, but your character wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a lot that is not about how careless you are with nudity. And I think Chala Hunter did a great job here.
Mm-hmm.
We never have frontal nudity. We saw the butts, we talked about them, but we don't see the crotches.
No.
And so we rely on hand movement and eye movement to insinuate what is happening. And they do a great job here. I think we all got the point, right?
Yeah.
Shane is getting hard. Ilya notices. Ilya starts jerking off. That wasn't lost on us just because we didn't see full frontal
And I think like
on this scene.
I could maybe see like an argument for like dub con, like dubiously consensual. But I think like when you take into thought about like how much like tension and buildup that has already kind of been just between like them looking at each other and their nonverbal communication, that's where I see like the dubious consent kind of maybe falling apart a little bit. But also like we do have to realize that like Shane is like petrified of being outed, and so like that does like mess with his consent boundaries a little bit, but Ilya doesn't know that yet. Like Ilya doesn't know that Shane is being petrified of being outed. They have like barely even talked up until this point. This is just
But still, Ilya's very careful.
yes.
I know that what we understand as careful might vary, but he starts slow, looks at Shane, and then
Yes.
continues. He's like ready to stop at any second. And as soon as Shane says, not here, it's over.
It's over. It's done with. They're done. Exactly. And so that's where I think like some people might maybe like be projecting like stuff about consent and like what we know about consent like largely as a society onto that scene. Where we don't know like what they've expressed, like they don't even know what they've expressed is like okay or not okay in their consent boundaries, which I think leads us really beautifully into them having sex for the first time. So, Amanda, do you want to give us your thoughts here first, since Lau and I have been yapping?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, even before they get to that part, we had like Shane on weeks that is he's on waiting mode, which is the most like relatable thing ever. It's so funny his anxiety. This is like so me because I show up anywhere early just to be like, Lauren, you know this. I'm all like, if Amanda's not early, it's like, where the fuck's Amanda? Like, is Amanda okay? Because I'm just, and then I'll sit in my car and I'll do waiting mode and I'm like doing all my Twitter and whatever. And I think him getting
low key me this whole day before we recorded.
Oh no, literally like every time like I don't want to, we're going to talk a little bit about my personal life, but every time I have a hookup come over, there's a list of things that we do before the hookup comes over that is waiting mode.
Yes.
I don't think he knows everything that he would need to do theoretically because this is his first foray into anything, we assume, almost. He would know that there is other actual prep work to be done, but like the whole suit and everything is so cute. It's so, listen, but like he's so like, it's a little like, it's just sweet, like a suit. He's like, wait, is this a date? It's not a date. And I just think that was really funny and relatable. And then Yuna in the elevator, and it's like she knows with Ilya, she knows who she is, but I don't know if he knows who she is. But I think he would know who she is, and he's purposely deciding to be an asshole.
He does. Yeah, he does.
I think he's seen Yuna with Shane, and when she's like, "Oh, I'm going down," I like to picture Ilya and his head being like, "Me too." Like, oh, I'm going down. Oh yeah, me too.
That's on character.
Yeah.
Yes.
On your son, actually.
Okay, first of all, Sea Lion is a perfect song for this. I love Feist in general. Jacob Tierney, whoever selected all of the music. I mean, I know we have this in our notes, but perfect. This, I feel like this song Manche Tu by Wet Leg, who I got to see in September, like Manche Tu is so good. And then like Tattoos, all the things she said, like I cannot listen to that talk without crying anymore, I don't think. But anyways, music is incredible. Sea Lion's so good. Calling back to like something Amanda was talking about earlier, just like the technology from like 2008. There's a taxi service pamphlet on the table. It's like how to call a taxi, and I was like, because Uber didn't exist.
It's these small touches that just add so much to it that really puts you in it, because it is like they can't just text each other what room number they're in all the time, and I'm like, we'll get there, but like they just, the way they communicate, and like it's not like the constant communication every day that we experience now in this stage of technology. Back then, where it's like, oh, I'll see you in like 6 months and we can talk then. Like it's different, and I like it. It's small touches.
It's great. And you're talking about music, Lauren, and I just want to say again, I don't want to delve too much into what I already said for the previous intimacy scenes, but not having music during the first sex scene, during those first kisses, so important. Again, breathing and Foley for like clothes, touching, and sucking, and all of that amplified. That's what we need. That's how you build intimacy through the ears of your public. So there you go.
Yeah.
And the moaning.
Ilya did a TikTok. The holding Shane's face by his throat. I was like, God damn.
The way
the thumb sucking. Ah!
The way he guides Shane very gently against the wall. You know, like the duality of man is guiding gently
exactly
to pin against the wall. It's just
and I think like him like trying to ask questions is like, is this your first time? And I think that is like different from the mirror or the shower scene where Ilya is like trying to come on to them and Shane's maybe not understanding it, or maybe is like not confused. That's why he says not here. And then now they're in the room and they have the privacy, and then Ilya can get the like find that the like pin him, but also say like, what is your experience, like where are you at, trying to meet him where he's at. And I think that is very sweet and is very like, we'll touch on this again where people will say Ilya is toxic. I don't think this is toxic. I think this is sweet, and this is a very first time, and there's a lot of things I find in this scene is reassuring.
It's just Ilya's always grabbing, like Ilya is a boob man in both genders, as we can tell from every time he grabs Shane's chest. That's his emotional support titty. Okay, don't take it away from
him. And we support that.
And the line where he's like, "Let me show you how to do this, kid." Whoo! I was like, "Oh no." Oh no.
Shane's dead. Shane's on the floor. Shane's a puddle.
Yes.
I'm dead. Shane's dead.
We're all dead.
We're all dead.
Connor's story has very defined lips. Like the line. So when he's moaning and he lifts just one side of his upper lip, you know, like it's just
don't talk to me about it.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Excuse me. No, literally.
Oh yeah, and Shane folding his clothes.
Oh my god, Shane folding his clothes.
I love this. I don't know, we'll have to keep an eye out for it, but I don't think there is a single time that we don't see him fold his clothes. I think it is almost just about every single time.
He doesn't fold his clothes the second time they have sex in the first episode. I don't think he folds his clothes. We don't see it when he's at the house in Boston. Sorry, I immediately am cutting you out. Like, I think we only see him fold his clothes twice, and I associate that with nervousness.
When he's the one removing them.
Or he's the one removing them. I also associate it with, like, nervousness. Like, I think as he gets more comfortable with Ilya, the clothes don't need to be folded.
Because I know he does it in Vegas, in the pet house.
Yes, but he doesn't do it when they have sex in Montreal for the first time.
True.
And he doesn't do it at the end of this episode. But yes, that is so, like, that's so type A of him. I think, I think the clothes folding replaced Shane wanting to take a shower after sex
Yeah,
every
because
time.
Ilya is the one taking a shower in some of these scenes in this episode, but not Shane.
I think Ilya's showering after they have sex is to create distance and to not have them like cuddle and not have an emotional connection.
Exactly.
I think that's why Ilya goes and showers, because like otherwise they would just like lay there and talk to one another. But God forbid they talk to one another.
Which, speaking of talking, we have Shane comment on Ilya's English, and I see Lauren. You asked, "What do we think this is for?" Do we want to unpack this a bit?
I think this scene, I think we see them be like comfortable with each other, and we see like the beginnings of their dynamic, which I think we've talked about a little bit in our notes. But like we see like them in different interactions, ways that we haven't seen in them interact before. We see like a very jokey, like joking Ilya, which we have not seen before. We see like a little bit of like teasing from him. We see Shane kind of like giving into humor a little bit more. I think it like expands their character dynamics, and it really gives us like who they're going to be together like throughout this series.
Yeah.
We also see like so much of Shane's anxiety about this, like
Real.
especially in that like post nut clarity moment where Shane's like, he doesn't trust Ilya. He's like, you're not gonna tell anybody, right? And that is so like this is gonna be a long moment, so I just need to talk about this. Like at first when I saw that in the scene where Shane was like, like, you're not going to tell anybody about this, I was like, that's a little selfish of Shane, because like he doesn't realize like how much that also like people finding out would also hurt Ilya, especially like when we think about Russia and Ilya's like family dynamic. But then I was like, okay, but the closet is such like a clusterfuck. Like as a person who's been in the closet, it makes you like so only aware of yourself, and it's
Of
like
your own
when
closet.
you come out of the closet, you find that you have like community and you're not isolated, and that even if you're in the closet and you know that there are gay people out there, that there are people who would like be your community and things like that, like it is still petrifying to take that step into the light. And so I was like, I don't think maybe now that Shane is selfish. I think the closet itself is selfish, and it makes you like not have those links and not have that community. This is also shows like as Ilya gets up to leave, like this is a really big moment in Shane's life. Like this is the first time he's ever been intimate with another person from what we know, and like there should be like a celebration about this. Like that should be like a big moment for him. But because the closet is so oppressive, it's so selfish, it makes you like just become this like hull of a person. He doesn't get that. And that's just like, I think one of the most striking parts of this episode is like that aftermath of them having sex for the first time.
Yeah, and we see that in the body language, in the who's clothed, who isn't, in which moment. We notice something that is gonna be a constant in this episode. Shane never takes off his socks. We can see his body relax and tense depending on what is going on. Folding his arms again, closing off. So yeah, the closet isolates you and won't let you really have the intimate relationships you wish to have with your community in the same way that being out of the closet will help you. I'm not saying that like for anyone who's still in the closet and doesn't feel safe to come out, it doesn't mean you won't find a community. You will, but it does tricks to your brain and makes you paranoid in a way that you suffer a lot. And we see that with Shane, and we will see that with Ilya as well. It's not just Shane. Ilya will also respond to that fear in a very similar way in the future.
Yeah, I really like this like who's clothed and who's nude kind of comparison. I think it's really interesting that we see how it sets this dynamic for us and this almost ritual for them of the talking and the hesitancy and then giving into it and then the post nut clarity and the leaving and then on off emotional availability, because they obviously had this very emotional intimate moment where it's like you make me curious, like I make you curious, like that whole thing. And then now where Shane is like standing there at the end and is like we don't, or Shane's like sitting there and Ilya is leaving and he's like, oh, we shouldn't do this. It's like he's almost making it like a will they, won't they, where he's like, oh, but we can't, but really he's serious about it, where they're like, we can't, and then they do, and then he's like, we can't, and then we do, and it sets up this dynamic that gets more and more complex as we go on.
Yeah. I've realized that I've been quoting Eve Sedgwick's Epistemology of the Closet, which is like one of the foundations in queer studies and tackles the question of what makes up human sexuality. But I've basically been quoting that when talking about Shade in the Closet. So here we are.
Hell yeah. So some final recapping thoughts. Not everything, of course, but just little things. So overall, this spans just about 3 years. The first few years we meet them from their rookie season. I mean, of course, that's where we get part of where we get our lovely name here from. Into the first year on their respective teams. We get their first few hookups, which are really fundamental in setting their dynamic and their foundation. And we get a bit of background on their lives, their personal struggles, and some of their own side characters and their friends and their family. And how that can interfere and interact into their relationship here. It lays the groundwork for their idiosyncrasies and some of their little habits, like Shan wearing socks or folding his clothes, or Ilya's smoking and whatnot.
If any of you are ever wanting to get more into hockey, or you want to know about current happenings on the NHL, I'm basically living on Threads at this moment, and I also run our Instagram, so you always can get in contact with me there, and I can give you all of the good information. And I'll keep dropping hockey hints throughout this series.
Yes, I think if
you're doing a great job there.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job. I'm trying to keep up on the Twitter, and I don't know if I'm as successful.
I think I'm just making the Threads like my own personal account about heated rivalry.
I think that's brilliant.
Oh, if listeners do want to like email us or contact us or DM us, our email is srspod@protonmail.com. That's in the description everywhere, but that's srspod, P-O-D, proton mail.com. So feel free to reach out to us there with questions or concerns or anything. DM or comment us if you have specific input. I think we're going to also set up like a little listener voicemail box if people want to share their specific takes on specific things. That'll be really cool to get listeners input on things. Yeah, anything else we should add? Follow us on all of the socials except Blue Sky. I think we're on Twitter, Instagram, Threads. Listen to us wherever you can. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, other podcatchers, etc.
Have your friends listen to us. Tell your mom about us, I guess. Tell your parents about us.
If you watch Heated Rivalry,
if you know Hudson Williams, Connor Story, Jacob Tierney, or Rachel Reed personally, please educate them on this podcast and let them know. If you know Ksenia, please tell her to DM me, bang my line immediately. You can slide into my DMs any day, anytime. I'm happy to have you there. And I think that's all I have to add. Lau, do you have anything?
No. This was great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, stay tuned.
So
stay tuned for next time. We'll cover episode 2. Hopefully, won't be as long, but we did have like our intros and stuff in this one. And hopefully we've already established some basic ideas that we follows, and so we'll be able to follow that thread line through future episodes. Yes, we'll see you ladies at the cottage next time for episode 2. Bye!
Bye!
Since Rookie Season is created by Lauren, Lau, and Amanda, the cover art is by Lauren and Lau, and Amanda is our editor. Thanks for listening!